Welcome to our second lecture in CSI 25260. Of course, CSI stands for Crime Scene Investigation. Anybody who watches TV knows that. I've posted this document for week 2. It's actually week 2, week 3, if you will. So I thought I'd start out with a little bit of review of the things we've talked about and kind of keep our sort of knowledge base that we've been slowly building here in sight and kind of summarized, and then we'll just keep adding HTML for a little while here and see a lot of the things we can do, and then we'll start to make fancier examples and fancier homework problems. Pardon me. So we know that HTML documents are text files which can be formed from a simple text editor program. Under Windows, Notepad is about as simple as you can get, and it works fine. Notepad++ is something I've used under Windows, and I like it. It's good text editor. There are lots of text editors that you can use, and if you have a favorite, you definitely want to use that. I'm on a Mac right now, but we can start up a Windows environment. I have a virtual machine for that if necessary. But under Mac, there's the basic kind of text editor is called TextEdit. Atom is the editor that I often use when I'm not using TextEdit. And again, there are many others there. Under Linux, the basic editor under Linux, like from the Linux desktop, if you're using the GUI, the typical graphical user interface, is Gedit, and kwrite is another very common text editor. If you're at the command line, VI and Nano are very common. Nano is, I would think, eminently easier to use. VI is more capable, but is just something for dinosaurs like me. There are a lot of strangeness to the VI text editor, but it has always been a part of Linux. And if you take Linux, you'll probably want to learn about VI and learn enough in VI to just be able to edit files, create simple files and edit existing files. And that's not too hard to do in VI. But, over the years, no one has, proclaimed, I shouldn't say no one, but perhaps no one that whose sanity we would endorse has claimed that VI is fun to use. If you don't use a text editor, you can use a kind of development environment. You may be familiar with this sort of a program. It's a program that allows you to write code and maybe even organize the code, and it will highlight the code in ways maybe by color coding it or something else. Sometimes when you type things, like we use a lot of brackets with the less than sign and the greater than sign. So if you type a less than sign, maybe automatically puts the greater than sign there, and you type in the name of the tag, and once you type in the tag, it might even put the closing tag, the matching closing tag in for you, and just things to try to make the writing of code easier and less error prone if possible. So Eclipse is a development environment used by C programmers, C++, Java, web developers. Eclipse is a general purpose programming, integrated development environment. They call it an IDE that has kind of come out of the Linux and Linux code development world. And there are many, and it runs on Windows also, but there are many development environments. Say a company wants to develop their own specific development environment. They'll take open source code from Eclipse and turn it into an environment that's tailored for what they do. Microsoft did a number of visual programming languages for years, and really actually did a pretty good job in that. They Visual Basic, Visual C++, Visual C Sharp. There was a Java equivalent before Visual C Sharp called Visual J Plus or something like that. And Visual F Sharp, I think, is their functional programming language. But at any rate, over time, they have finally broken out that development environment, which a lot of people like. It has this function called IntelliSense. And as you type things, it color codes them and automatically gives you little drop-down toolboxes to select the next thing. So a lot of times you can sort of start typing, and where the program code or format is well understood, you may see options appear that allow you to complete your coding quickly. So Visual Code Studio is an example of something Microsoft has written that actually has been received well by the community, and so it's now become sort of a freeware or open source, however you want to say it, product, and it's got even wider acceptance now. Brackets is another general purpose development environment. Genie also. I don't know much about Genie, but it just appears a lot as a development environment. Genie has a text editor at least, but it has all sorts of things. People use it to learn Python and Java and that sort of thing. So this is just to give you ideas. In the meantime, we'll use a text editor, but we might think about what these tools do when we make a web page where we decide to have a file for each web page, or we have separate files that hold styles or support things that we use. Our projects may become too big for one file, or just better managed by having multiple files. And so that's a kind of thing that we will do when we're developing. As our complexity grows, so will our needs for editors and things. There's another way to do web development, and we may try a bit of this toward later in the course, certainly. And that is this what you call WYSIWYG, WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get editor. And Microsoft Word, for instance, is a good example of a WYSIWYG document editor. So is FrameMaker and LibreOffice, and I shouldn't say FrameMaker. I think it's just called Frame. But Frame, LibreOffice, OpenOffice, almost same thing, and a number of other Interleaf for publishing, and there are just a lot of these things. And so you can set fonts and styles and everything, and make pretty fancy documents in these WYSIWYG editors. Well, it didn't take long for people to realize that would be a great concept for building web pages. And there are web development environments, just a ton of them out there, and they all claim a strength here or a strength there. But an open source one that's actually connected with LibreOffice is called Bluefish, and these are links. So when you can click on these. You can click on these and try them out, and so it used to be that when in the old days of web browsers, that they had a mode for doing web development, and that sort of exists, but the main browsers have kind of moved away from putting that functionality in as the development of web pages has gotten more sophisticated, and left that for tools specifically targeted for that sort of thing. Now, LibreOffice, the draw program, the writer, that's equivalent to Microsoft Word. Calc is equivalent to Microsoft Excel, and Impress is equivalent to Microsoft PowerPoint. All of these can export their documents in HTML format. So that's kind of interesting, and I'm, we'll take a look at that later in the course to see, just how viable that is. And I'll probably do some reading up to see. I'm a little out of date on if people are still doing this, but I do see college courses and kind of professional courses that do talk about using these kinds of programs to produce HTML documents. And if it's the program you use for creating other documents, why not? It means less tools, and if nothing else, it can be a way of creating manuals, but then also creating those same manuals so they can be web pages, so that they can be accessed online. So if you're working for a big company and you're helping with the user manual, and they also want to put it online, it might be just the right solution to do something like that. So Microsoft Word and Excel both have this capability. I didn't see it in PowerPoint, but there may be, it may be there and I missed it, or there may be a very simple plug-in or something you can get that'll take your PowerPoint and put it in HTML. You can certainly export anything to PDF in the Microsoft tools. I noticed a couple of times now, I've noticed that University of Delaware seems to have a lot of helpful pages on, Microsoft Office type tools, and also kind of some web development stuff. I don't know much about Ferris, but I put them in here because I found something that looked like it was useful. And here's some typical YouTube kind of things, instructional videos for using Microsoft Word. Now, none of this is required reading at this point. I just want you to have a reference so that, if you want to in the future go that way, you can. Maybe we'll look at this, maybe later in the course we'll export something from Word and something from LibreOffice in a demonstration to show that it can be done. But for now, we can just stick with text editors. Just to repeat something that I've said previously, but I think I kind of went the longer way around in saying it, is HTML text documents are rendered on the viewer client machine by a web browser. Certainly we all use web browsers, whether it's tablet, phone, or desktop machine. The text in the HTML documents is formatted in text using tags. That is, we don't have to have special codes. A Word file, for instance, Microsoft Word, or a LibreOffice write file, they have a lot of binary information that goes along, or they'll use XML, an extensible markup language. But regardless, they don't have, they're not optimized for text, or they don't use text to develop that stuff. You develop it in these programs and then produce these files. HTML can be produced with text documents, and using the tags you can mark it up and format it the way you like. And that's actually a style of document creation that has been used for a long time. I won't belabor the point, but in the academic world and in the Unix and Linux world for a long time, there was a typesetting program called TeX. It's T-E-Chi, like Tau Epsilon Chi in Greek, and it was written by an amazing computer scientist named Donald Knuth, spelled K-N-U-T-H. Maybe it's Knuth. I always think of it as saying Knuth. Donald Knuth is amazing. He's written books on computer science that are just classics. And he wrote a text editing or typesetting system so that you could get printer quality, typeset pages, all from text. And so he used tags, very much like HTML does. So this idea of a markup language goes back quite a ways and is well established. If you want to see the hypertext markup language, the markup language used by web pages, in Firefox, you right-click on the page and choose View Page Source. Chrome, right-click on the page and you can choose View Page Source or Inspect, and Inspect brings up their inspector, I believe, which is a fancier way of looking at the code. And Safari, you right-click on the page and choose Inspect Element, and wherever you've right-clicked, it focuses in on that HTML code. That's by way of review, and this is still a review in essence. I made 4 web page files, 4 HTML files, and I'll show them to you. We'll be looking at them in this lecture. There's 0, 1, 2, and 3, and so we'll talk about them, and they're described in this document. So this first I called them all templates, but in essence only the first one's a template. This is the most basic web page template. I think this is as minimal as one can get. It's got this single tag. It doesn't need an ending tag. It tells us it's an HTML document. The start of HTML and the end of HTML delimited by those tags. And we have a head and the end of the head section. And we haven't talked a lot about the head section, but there are things we can enter in here. There's metadata, if you will, information about your text document that's not displayed can be placed in this head section. And all the stuff that really gets displayed, we put down here in the body section. I think you've done some of that already in homework 1. So if we open this HTML file by double-clicking on it, and we get this fantastically stunning blank page. And the obvious reason is that between the start body tag, or the body start tag, and the body end tag, we have nothing. And faithfully, our web browser has reproduced that, and we see nothing. And if I right-click and say View Page Source, let's see, then we can see the exact same HTML information that we saw previously. So that amazing accomplishment is example 0. Now this time I did right-click and inspect, and I got this. I added this red comment here just to show that the blank page is over here. I got this fancier thing that shows us with the boundary formatting, and it shows us, all the stuff that we've done, and it has, other kinds of things over in here. There's a bunch of different panes, if you will, in this window. So let's take a look at example 1. So I think we've gleaned everything we can from this blank example. So in web page template 1, this is just an extension of what we've done thus far. Now, I have to say, in order to present the stuff, if you saw the Evolving Web webinar that I put a link to, then in my HTML code you may notice these things. There'll be a UL tag, and somewhere down here, I like to use the same indent level, somewhere down here there's an end UL tag. So right here it's the end UL tag. And in the midst of this stuff, there's a lot of, that's an unnumbered list. And then you have list elements that start with at the li tag and end with the li end tag, list item. And under the list items, I've even put unnumbered lists. And under some of those list items, I have an unnumbered list, sometimes with only one list item. But the point is, in order to present the web page in a way that it is sane to follow, I made lists. And so you get these bullets and that go on here. And that looks like a mistake right there. Header tags looks like it should be in here. So very possible that I have a mistake and I didn't notice it before. Maybe we'll look for that. At any rate, let's take a look at what I've stuck in here. So, we've got CSI 25260 HTML web page template 1 is our heading 1. Adding 2 is the basics thus far, and then we start a list. It says the web page, and whether you end your file with .htm or .html, it doesn't matter. It's operating systems recognize both file formats, and so that will work. It just doesn't matter. So our basic format for a web page, we describe what we showed before. You got your doc type. Now this is interesting. Here you'll see that I have to cloud this up and make it as confusing as possible. I have ampersand LT. That means please put the less than sign. This left bracket here is called ampersand LT, and I don't want it to be a tag in this case. I want you to actually see it on the web page. So I have ampersand LT, bang doc type HTML, ampersand GT for greater than sign, and then the end of the list element. And as we go and look at the web page, you can see I'm actually able to put a less than sign and a greater than sign into the HTML document without it being interpreted as a tag. So anytime you use a special notation within your character set for having a special meaning, like the tags start with less than and greater sign, and you want to also use that special character, then you need a way to escape it. And the ampersand LT ampersand GT is a way to escape that character out of being recognized and just print it as an actual character. And so here you can see that doc type is that one doesn't need an ending tag. HTML, end of HTML, head, end of head, body, end of body. And in this document, we'll be talking about HTML elements in the body. And I left out the word in, so that's great. But, the body and end body section is where we're interested in today. Viewing the HTML source in web browsers I mentioned up above, and then I also put into this document. Oops, sorry, wrong one. So we're in this one here, HTML1. And so, I actually want you to go through this code and see that I've done all this stuff using lists, and you'll see some quotes in here, and when I use quotes as part of the HTML tags, I just put in quotation marks. But if I want to actually display a quote or quote something, as you'll see, I can surround it with the Q tag and the end Q tag, and that particular set of words will be set off in quotes. So if we go back and look at our example here, you can see that there are basically lists going on. Again, this is just saying Firefox right-click, Chrome right-click so-and-so, Safari right-click so-and-so. Here are header tags. I just put one of each kind in here to kind of show what they look like. Excuse me. Paragraphs are easy. Like I say, everything moved out here. Well, header tags moved out here. I'm just not sure what actually happened, so I must have something that isn't quite right. Unless, I think I ended this list. We'll see. A paragraph, of course, you just have the P tag. All right. Nope. There we go. So in a paragraph, you have the P tag, and it ends with the /P tag. And no matter how you type this, it'll be formatted with one space between there. It will. If you have carriage returns in there, it just doesn't pay any attention to them. It just starts painting text from the left side to the right side, and if it needs to wrap, it will. If it doesn't, it won't. Now, URLs or links, just to make it clear, that's the same idea. People talk about web links or that sort of thing. I call them URLs. This inside the quotes here where it says Hypertext Transport Protocol, http://google.com, that is a uniform resource locator. And so, or what we call a URL, and it's also a link. So I show here we do using the A tag. We have the A, and then we specify where we're pointing with the href attribute. And we'll talk about that. This where we have the A tag doesn't end right away. It's got this something equals something in here in quotes, and that's an attribute. Then we end the A tag. We have some text to display. Click here for http://google.com. And then we end the A tag with a /A, the A ending tag, if you will. And if we go to here and we click on it, of course, we bring up the Google page. But did I lose my... Oh my. Sorry about that. So, and by the way, while I'm here, I'm going to make a copy of this program. So here we are, we're back. We can see our web page again. This is web page 01, but I'm going to go into my thing here, and I'm going to label this other file .htm, and I'll open that up, and this one's HTM, and this one's HTML, HTML. So you can see, you can see it just doesn't matter. All right. So that's example one. Again, please do read through the source code here, and I think I know where our problem is. Here's paragraphs are easy. Notice I did a list item, header tags, and then I said end of list item, and then I put in an unnumbered list. Well, this end of list item, it really doesn't end till after this unnumbered list. So I think maybe what I'll do is I will make that edit right now. And then I think these guys ought to go in. Okay. And I'll make sure that this is updated to what you get. But if we go over here and we go, let's see, view page source, and let's bring up that HTML, the HTML version, so we have a page that hasn't changed yet. This one hasn't changed, and you can see it somewhere here. It's up in header tags is where we have this problem. We just fixed it right at header tags. So let's see if we have improved anything now. I'm going to go into our page and I'm going to right click. I'm in the HTML file now, and I'm going to do inspect. Let me see this. Yeah, inspect. All right, here we are, and we need to open up this little. No, that's not what I wanted to do. I don't think I can expand this, but there's an arrow pointing here, and so this is where we are, and it says header tags, and it says end of list element, and then it has this thing. So what I think we should do is probably, let's see if we can, if we're allowed to edit over here. Some of these things allow you to edit the file, and some only allow you to inspect. So I guess this guy only allows us to inspect. I can't. All right, I hit delete. Now there's the list above us. And here are all the list items with headers in them. So I see it took out, when I took this out, it took out the whole list element. So let's reload it. We'll fix it this way. Boy, I couldn't have. I'm going to open the text, the HTML file with Atom. And as I go down here, I'll try to increase the font size to make this a little easier. So as I go down here, I see the header tags, and I put the that li here. Before, when I edited it, this is just a Word file, so I can't use that. But so I took out the end of list, and I like to indent everything by 2 spaces. You can do this as you care to do it, but I really want to put that that list item here. It's at the correct indentation level now. There's the end of list item. I go up to the start of it. So I'm going to save that file. I'm going to go back to the web, and I think I'll shut down the viewer here, and let's see what happens when I reload the file. This is the HTML file, and that's the one I edited. well, it didn't do a darn thing. We still look exactly like that file. So I'll have to figure out why our lines went out there. Somebody's one of you guys is probably sitting out there. One of you ladies or gentlemen, was probably sitting out there and saying, "Oh, I know exactly where it is. This fool, he doesn't know what he's doing." And I confess. But somewhere in here, it looks like our listing scheme has, that I've violated whatever level I'm in, and so well, that's not cricket right there. So perhaps this should actually be an end list element, maybe. And this is what happens when one starts playing around and completely oh wait, wrong thing. Hey, I think we fixed it. Okay. So anyway, one needs to keep all these opening and close tags, balanced, and I don't, and surrounding the right things. And I think I had violated that. So I think this is actually correct now. This is, we'll see as I go down here. This guy right here should have been an end of a list item, I believe. Now let's see. Excuse me. So that's all good, but on here, I'll make sure this document's up to date. I think these should be brought out to the same level as those guys. I'll fix all that up. Yeah, these are our headers. And this may have been introduced in the way I copied and pasted from my actual text file into the Word document. But I'll make sure yours are correct. And now, we talked about images and just how to do that. Paragraphs are easy, uniform resource locators. So we had that. An image, all I have to do is put in this IMG tag. It doesn't need another tag. But in the image tag, there's almost like there isn't a uniform resource locator. This one I went out and got a picture from the web, but this could point to a picture on my computer. Maybe in the same directory, maybe in a directory called images, or wherever you want to place it. But you just have to reference it from this quoted string here. So my image source is from some meme generator out on the net. And you can see, if you've ever seen Matt Foley on Saturday Night Live, this is one of his skits he does, and I very much appreciate his humor. The late Matt Foley, the late Matt Foley, everyone. So there's our first web template page. Let's keep going and see how many mistakes I've made in these other pages. Here's a little picture of what it's supposed to look like, and obviously this picture has the mistake in it too. So much for having an instructor, a capable instructor. Web page 2. We start out with our same old format, and we're going to embellish some of the basics we've learned. We're going to add, just kind of previewing it, we're going to add attributes, and the very last attribute we add will actually be a special, well, not a special kind of attribute, but a kind of attribute called a style. So, and to fit this in better, so it didn't wrap and make a complete mess of things, I made smaller fonts where I referred to, the sourced picture I had. And I sourced a picture on the web because I didn't want you yet to have to build a directory and all that stuff. We'll do that, and obviously our next example we'll do that. And you've already done it if you've done the Evolving Web webinar when you did the chocolate cake there. Okay, so we're done with that. Now we're into example 2. And so let's bring up example 2 and take a look at it and talk about some of these embellishments that we have. I'll get rid of this failed mess here. Example 1 and example 2. Another favorite character of mine, Doc Brown. Marty, we've got to go back to the future. And so, if you're not a Back to the Future fan, my apologies. Let's embellish these basics. All right, HTML attributes. HTML attributes provide additional information about HTML elements to the browser. So I'm in my browser, and I want things to be displayed, but as the author of a web page, I may want to control the rendering of things. Rendering is the verb that's used to render is to take like an artist rendering. It's to take the information you have and to present it in the graphical format. It also means to remove fat from dead animal carcasses for industrial processing or something. So we'll go with the first meaning if that's okay. I'd rather it come out like that. So you can associate a tooltip with an HTML element to help readers for visually impaired. Now there are two different things. There's a tooltip and then there's alternate text. But the tooltip can be helpful also. So you have a paragraph and you can put this attribute in here. See, paragraph would normally be less than sign P and then the greater than sign. But we stick in this, some name equals something in quotes syntax in here, and we say title equals some helpful tooltip text. Hover your mouse over this paragraph. So if I hover my mouse over that paragraph, it's pretty small, but as you do it, you can see it, and it takes a half a second for it to come up, and it says some helpful tooltip text. And I don't know if a screen reader will pick up titles, but so my comment here is a little, maybe needs qualification. So there's an attribute though that can control how something appears. You can specify the width and height of an included image. Here's an image I have, and again I'll show the what it looks like in the HTML file, and of course here it gets rendered. But now we take that same thing, and we know, by the way, that in the image tag, img tag, source equals quoted thing, that's an attribute. So I have an image, and here's an attribute helping me at telling it where the image is. If I go down here, I have an image tag, and it has attribute of where the image is, same image, but it's also got width equals 100, height equals 120, and I think I'd change the aspect ratio of the picture because Doc looks like he's a little skinnier here, but what are you going to do? You can add alternate text to the image. Now, alternate text is read by a text reader that might be used by a visually impaired person. The title that I put earlier, that tooltip stuff, may or may not be, I'm not sure. But alternate text is definitely read. And the alternate text in this case just says Doc Brown. Now, because the alternate text is only displayed if the image can't be displayed or if you're using this text reader. So if I hover over this, nothing will happen now because the image can be displayed and I'm not using a text reader. Of course, I can add a tooltip to an included image right here. If I hover over that and the thing appears, it says Doc Brown here. What I'll do is I'll do it over here like that. And you can see it a little easier to see. Doc Brown in text comes up there. You can add alternate text to a URL, a link. Now, the alternate text isn't going to show up because, again, it's used by a text reader. But I did another one with a tooltip. And so in this case, it says NASA website URL, just to say what it is. Maybe I should have said NASA website link, because people would have an easier time with that. You can make the URL open in a new tab or window. Again, this was also shown in the evolving web thing. So if I go here and I click on this, I get a new tab up here, and it's for the National Ignition Facility, which is quite a thing. They have superpower lasers and just tons and tons of them, and they focus the lasers onto very small objects, and they can time it so all the lasers pulse in the right sequence, and they make the paths to the target all exactly equal. So they can put a little I don't know, hydrogen, deuterium, or tritium pellet in a certain position, and then hit it with this stuff and study nuclear fusion and other things too. So they can for brief pulses, they can bring incredible energy to bear on a focused small thing. You can remove the underline from a URL or link, and I couldn't remember why one would want to do this, but I've heard of it before, so I put it in here. And in this one it says style. So this one is here's an A tag, and href, that's a attribute, and style is an attribute. It says style equals, and there's something in quotes. And style has some kind of specifier here, then a colon, then some information, and then a semicolon. So that kind of attribute with the word style is a style. And that's going to get us on the way toward CSS. You may have heard about with web pages, HTML and CSS, cascading style sheets. This would be called an inline style. It's just a style applied to what you're describing at that specific point in your HTML file. So this style is going to apply to this link. And if you look, it says click here to visit NIF, and there's no underline there. So I click, and again I go to that same National Ignition Facility. And then I managed to close my document. So let me here we go. There's the doc. Well, and then of course we're done. So actually we don't need that one. And we have web page template 3. Now this one here is it's about these inline styles. So as I describe this stuff, and I'm trying to kind of keep this stuff very closely aligned with what occurs in the W3 School's website, so that you know, wouldn't have to jump around if you started looking at their stuff. So let's look at this. Here's example 3. You start with your doc type, your head, the body, and let's move from HTML attributes to HTML inline styles and that sort of thing. So it says here you can apply styles to entire paragraphs, and in that case, let's see, this is your, okay, yeah, we're going to keep repeating this paragraph. This is your average paragraph. It seeks not to excel or disappoint. Its expectations are right down the middle, and that's the paragraph. All right, and here it is rendered in HTML. So we go out here, and this is your average. So I'm just showing it to you what it looks like in the HTML file. Then I show it to you rendered here, and they're both list items. Not a big deal. So you can set the color of the entire paragraph, and out here in the P tag, here you go. You got an attribute which happens to specifically be style equals, and then within the quotes, you've got these. You've got a specifier and a value. So it says color blue. It ends in a semicolon, and the quotation marks close that. We have the greater than sign, the same old deal with the paragraph, and then we end the paragraph, and here it is. You can see it right below here. It's certainly blue. You can set the font family. Notice all the serifs here, the curly Q's and everything. That's Times Roman. And there's the HTML that's in your file, but notice here it's in Courier, which is by the way, Courier is a good example of a Courier is a good example of a constant width or fixed width font. A little topography here. If you look at the M in family, it's pretty wide, and the I naturally pretty narrow, and the L is narrow. So and a W, I don't know if there's one around here, is going to be pretty wide. But in this in Courier, all of the fonts, all the glyphs, if you will, are the same width. That's what makes them nice for when you're doing code. In my Atom thing here, you know, this isn't Courier, but it's a fixed width font, so that everything, you know, you can line things up and that sort of thing. You know, code isn't meant to be pretty printed. Well, I shouldn't say. It isn't meant to be highly formatted with lots of fonts and everything. It's meant to be something that can be gone through and made, you know, with indentations and that sort of thing. So it just works really well for code, especially, is fixed width fonts. And text editors, you know, they may or may not default to that. But if you're using a text editor, I would strongly suggest, if you have, to make the font a fixed width font, like Courier New is a good example. Courier, Consolas, there are a couple. So yes, thank you. You can set the size of a paragraph. So here's this font size, :50 pix. Again, it's part of the style thing. There it is. That's what 50 pixels, I guess, looks like. You can center, you know, there's your paragraph, and it's actually in the middle of the page right there. And what did we say? We said style equals text align, :center. So the semicolon, because you can have multiple of these things. You could say text align center. Well, here we go. Font family Courier color green. when you have multiple ones, I didn't put the thing on the end here and it worked just fine. I've got Courier font and a green paragraph. So I think what I'm actually going to do here, just for the fun of it, is I'm going to take, let's see, that's 01. I'm going to close that. And we're on 03 now. And open it up, and we're on one of these, like the one that just does blue. I'm going to take out the semicolon. I'm just interested to see, when you only have one, you probably don't need the semicolon. So let's go back up here. And I mean, I didn't change the here. I should do that. Let's take it out of here also. So yeah, I didn't put the semicolon in when you only have one of these things. You always wonder about these little syntactical things. I've seen them go in unexpected ways. You take the semicolon out and the whole thing blows up or whatever. But in this case, there's one we've just proven. You don't need the semicolon when there's only one. So we combined two of them. We made the font family Courier and the color green. And what's going to happen when we get to cascading style sheets, the CSS, we'll be able to put these styles in a separate file, and we can have paragraphs that are, we could have a style called a normal paragraph. And when we specify paragraphs, it can be say it's a normal paragraph, and then we don't have to repeat all this stuff every time. And we can have other paragraphs that are, maybe an inset paragraph, or a footer paragraph, or a header paragraph, or a footnote paragraph, or something like that. So where you begin to have, you begin to care about the nuances of how the material is presented, and a good presenter does. You want to make things go as naturally and have certain consistencies that people can depend on. Then the style capability really comes in handy, and when it's with CSS, you can sort of abbreviate the names of the styles, put them in your HTML file, and keep the styles themselves in the CSS file. So let's see. You can modify the entire body style, and I didn't do that because it would modify this entire document. But you can change the background color, you can change the text alignment for the entire document. So you can kind of apply these styles at different hierarchical levels. You can also just apply some of the styles to specific text. All right, you can impute what a word. You can impute extra importance to certain words. For instance, make them appear in bold. And this tag, the W3 schools don't seem to be, forthcoming on this one. I picked it up somewhere else. The B and the NB. It makes average bold. They tend to use the strong, and I've seen that this dates back to like HTML2 or HTML, early days. So strong and not, ending a strong is the way to bold this paragraph. I just wanted you to know there's both of these, and you may see them both. And italics, they don't use the word italics, they use emphasis, EM, and then the ending tag is /EM, obviously. And here's your average paragraph, the words in italics. You can highlight words with a mark and end mark tag set. And there's average paragraph highlighted. So it's like you take one of those highlighting markers and go over it. And now, the one thing I didn't look up is I've used mark and end mark before, but you can actually specify the highlighting color, and I that's going to be a style a style specification somewhere. You can strike out certain words. So if you were in a website, maybe you were trying to show some editing, or showing the wrong way to do something. Or I'm trying to think of an example, but it may be that you want to strike out the text to show that it's deprecated or just not wanted in some way. Then the del and end del here, /del tag set will do that. We've got a strike through on the average thing. Quotations, Q and not Q will do that. Now this one, citing quoted references. I picked this one up from the W3 schools. I hadn't seen this before. And so let's take a look at, let's take a look at our page. Let's see. So we get this thing. Block quote is the tag, and end block quote is somewhere down here. End block quote is right there. So, not too far from where I was born and grew up, there was this famous railroad viaduct, if you will. The Nicholson Bridge, or the Tunkhannock Viaduct, is a concrete arch bridge on the Nicholson Cutoff Railroad. Anyway, so rail segment. So you got all this stuff in here, and we quote it, and then what it does, it indents it down here and puts the text, but doesn't do much of anything else. I guess what it does is it leaves a record in your HTML file that you are citing this from someplace. If you are being proper as an author, I don't think this would be sufficient for someone to have to go look at the HTML source to see where your source is. So, I don't think we're going to use this in our stuff. I was just going through some of the W3 school stuff. You can format abbreviations. So you have this thing here, abbrev, and this is I think it's just an attribute. It's not a style. So you have ABBR, title equals National Institute of Standards and Technology. Maybe it's technologies. Sorry. But at any rate, it's called NIST, and that's the end of the abbreviation tag. So if I hover over NIST below, and in 0.04 point font, I see something down there. It says National Institute of Standards and Technology. You can see when I hover over it that something does appear. And I think that's actually useful because if a person is in the middle of a document, you may have defined what NIST was up near the top, but if they know enough to hover over it, they'll get a little help there. That will let them know that NIST stands for something, and that's what it is. So that's our that's a lot of HTML that we've covered thus far, and there'll be more. And I will update the documents I just posted in the Moodle site so that you have some idea, and we'll get a little more HTML and a little more style info under our belts, and we'll go ahead and make something. And I guess one of the next things we should talk about, we have lists. Tables are important in websites. And then there's where we promise to talk about what's appropriate in web pages. There's a little bit of a debate about how things should be placed on a page, on a web page, and tables are a quick way to be able to do some formatting. And some people believe that tables shouldn't be used as a formatting tool, and some people go ahead and use them. So there's a discussion about that, and then we'll find out what the latest best practice is regarding that. All right. Take it easy, everyone, and we'll have another week 2, week 3 lecture added to this one with some more HTML. Fun, huh? Okie doke. See you next time. Bye.